I wanted to record a reading for you all. This will give us a heads up and preparation for the themes we might encounter. And the beautiful process around these readings is, can we tune in and prepare ourselves for the lessons, the learning, the abundance, the ways in which we can move towards change and growth rather than away? Because we know that change and growth is fairly uncomfortable at times. It's not all doors opening, everything working out in our favor. And we're going for grounded, holistic change and growth, which means it's good for my body, it's good for my mind, and it's good for my soul. Now, the readings are a way that we can use tangible information, bring through some imagery and some color, and work towards the themes that present with the animal allies. We understand that spiritual awakenings and dark night of the souls it's a very difficult time. We also know that developing intuition can be a remedy for those stuck in the turmoil of egoic life, which means reducing life down to just paying the bills and getting through can be where a lot of the pain comes from. We don't want to just slap band-aids on and get through, although that option is available to you at any time. That's something that medication could give you, or other structures within the society's Western world. We're really providing, hopefully, nourishment and a container where you can learn a bit, feel held, not judged, and cheerleaded through the transition. This reading is really available to all of you. And if the reading pulls out some interesting thought forms, that's excellent. That's about learning new concepts, growing through different ideas. And the way that we do it at Ankara is we really like to tell the truth, and we can be quite direct. Now, that's just a way for us to understand that change and growth is uncomfortable, particularly shadow readings and shadow information is meant to be uncomfortable. And we just ask that you remain curious and compassionate with yourself through the discomfort. So it's really hacking into those structures of defense, isn't it? And we can have all sorts of trauma responses in our lives. And I just ask you to stay very curious and open and aware of when a piece of information or a way of doing things or an interaction with a friend or a loved one activates your nervous system and sends you into a trauma response. The ways that you can understand this is the fight response. So I feel like hurting that person, projecting onto that person, blaming that person, being cruel to that person, and getting them away from me, right? Flight is, I feel like running away, I need to leave, and we go into a mechanism that creates space. We also have fawn and freeze. Fawn is usually dissolving our own needs and moving into a people-pleasing framework, which means I'm just going to pretend I'm not this uncomfortable right now, and I'm just going to say and do what everybody wants. Freeze is disassociation generally, when it's people with something locks up inside you and you go frozen, and it takes a while for you to come back out of that. So these trauma responses we want to be on top of, we want to get help with, we want to get professional help with, but we also want to have self-awareness about when they show up within us. I'm really trying to make this decision. Can you help me find clarity? Of course we can. The horse really tells us that we are moving forward, and we can move forward with quite a bit of power. Now, we are in spring. For those of us in the Southern Hemisphere, for the Northern Hemisphere, you'll be going into autumn. The horse really says, let's move forward. Let's get our plan together. Let's get it structured. What are my action steps? Where am I going? What are my goals? Do I have my goals written out? Do I have them clarified? Do I have the language right? Do I know how long it's going to take me to achieve these goals? What kind of horsepower or energy do I have behind me? And how can I move forward without waiting for everyone else to be ready? So the shadow aspect with horse is, if you're moving forward, then you are responsible for moving forward. Even though horses are pack animals, they seem to have a beautifully intuitive way of knowing when they're going to move together. So sometimes the horse comes through to say, it's not about anybody else being ready. It's about you having goals and knowing where you're going. Write out your goals, midterm, long-term, short-term, to use that burst of energy for spring to get you where you're going, right? It's an excellent time to do mini detoxes. It's an excellent time to increase natural daylight or sun exposure. It's a great time to change your diet from heavier, deeply nutritious foods into lighter, fresher foods as well. So in spring, if that's where you're in, we want to eat the rainbow. We want to bring in the fruits and the vegetables and the things. That's from a Chinese medicine paradigm. I understand that other people are doing other dietary paradigms. If you're now winding down from summer into autumn, for those of you in the northern hemisphere, we want to come the opposite way. So we've been in peak season. We want to start that consolidation phase. So going a little bit more inward, changing the diet to represent more deeply nourishing foods, and going into integration, getting ready for rest. Those of us that have been in winter, we have been in deep integration. We have been in, now's not the time to be out there all the time using up all of our resources. We actually move into, let's prepare for an excellent summer and let's get ourselves ready. The other 3 cards that I have are going to represent our 3D world, our 4D world, and our 5D world. Now, remember, these are concepts around, are we looking to move forward? Are we looking to have more awareness, more self-awareness, more understanding of the world that we're in? Do we want a better connection with spirit, with God, with source, whatever language we want to use? And do we think that that represents growth for us? If the answer is yes, we are trying to refine and master our 3D world so that we can move into a heart governing place, which can act like a compass and can link the mind with the spirit and the body. Heart really opens all of these higher centers up. And then 5D is about working with the universe, feeling super connected, working with guides, working with ancestors, whatever path that represents for you is really, really important. So in the 3D position, we have the octopus. The octopus really says, let's get really smart about our 3D lives. If we want to set ourselves up for growth and abundance and community and figuring out what our purpose is and our truth and speaking that truth and being a leader and all these beautiful concepts, we need to understand that we need structures, we need systems, we need goals, we need ways to hack our self-sabotage, we need learning and growth away from our disempowering habits or our addictions and things that are bringing us down. We need to be smart about who in our life is creating toxic alchemy and who in our life is creating advantageous alchemy, which means who's supporting me to get where I want to go and who's actually holding me back. Octopus says, engage your intellect. And the way that we can do that is, how can we create a better 3D life? More safety, more security, more wealth, more health. And how do we actually get those things into a really functional place so that we don't have to worry about our survival, right? And I totally understand that when you're going through a spiritual awakening or a dark night of the soul, survival seems to be at the forefront of our minds. And we simplify our lives back to survival. But let's be smart. And having been there myself many times, the way that we can move into higher states and move away from the pain and the suffering, maybe the symptoms around anxiety and depression and insomnia, is understanding exactly what our body needs. Every individual is different. Really honing in on how many hours sleep do I need and how do I prioritize that for myself? How many meals do I need a day and how do I prioritize that for myself? How much exercise do I know I thrive under and how do I prioritize that for myself? And who do I need around me? When you're feeling super capable, super abundant, super regulated, all the things, you can really have anyone around you, right? This is really saying hone in on what's going to get you to where you want to be, right? Remember, the horse is taking off. Octopus says, let's get real smart about the micro movements that are going to get us there. So we want atomic habits. Habits that help us to be 1% better every day so that we can move slowly into a better season. If you're in a personal winter, which really is a low place in your life, that could be the dark night of the soul, that could be a spiritual awakening, that could be the loss of something, a person, a career, relationship. Octopus says, honor where you're at and go for the 1%. It's a really smart way of doing it. Can I get a regular sleep routine, which means I'm always going to repair no matter how stressful the day is? Can I set myself up for nutritious meals And if I don't have the capacity to do that, what are other ways that I can do it? Is it when I do have a little bit of capacity, I meal prep and cook many amounts? Could I call up my housemates or my friends and say, hey, can we share the cooking? I'm finding it really hard. Could we get together and cook for each other once a week? Are there other ways that you can get nutritious meals into you when you're not feeling super abundant or you don't have all the money in the world? So how can we be really smart about this? Again, getting you out of a difficult place is often about nutrition, exercise, a natural environment. So daylight in the eyes, sun exposure every day, face-to-face contact or contact with people in your life, and certainly saying no to everything that doesn't represent you getting better, right? That's boundaries, that's structure, that's acknowledging where you're at. And it's okay when you're in a dark place. If you're in a really abundant place, you're getting towards your goals and everything's working out, you're like in a personal summer of some kind, get really smart about how to maintain it. So what habits do I need moving forward? How can I keep on building on those atomic habits, those 1% every day, so that I can be even more abundant and work towards my sense of purpose of solving more complex problems, being of service to humanity, right? So don't let the ego convince you that it's outsmarted anyone else or anything else. We want to be smart about, is what I'm doing really serving me, or am I just pretending that this is the best that I can do? I certainly know in my difficult times, I have been running a narrative that says, I'm fine. I don't have to do all that stuff that other people do. I don't have to meditate or eat well or any of that. And that is a shadow program that's running for me. Octopus really says, can we do better? And if we did do better, how could we feel and where could we go in our lives, right? They're the bottom three centers. We're really trying to think cleverly about every sector in our lives, where we're smashing goals, where we're feeling good and where we're not, and how we can change that and what learning we need to go through to get there. So if you don't know much about sleep, free resources everywhere online. You can listen to podcasts, you can ask us a question, you can direct message me. How do I hack my sleep routine? How do I get out of insomnia? How do I get out of this place? And let us go out there and find some resources too, and offer some action steps as well. If you don't really know that much about nutrition and you're a little bit overwhelmed with all the different opinions out there, then maybe it's time to educate yourself with a short course or a free course. Jump on and read research articles, call up someone in your life that has spent years studying it and ask them directly rather than asking all your friends that also don't know much. So if you know anyone that is really into it and seems to have their heart in the right place and their head switched on, that's who we call for those areas of our life, right? So ask advice to people that know more than you in certain areas, and that can be a beautiful exchange.